Welcome back to Tactics Talk with Guido. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I appreciate your support as always. On this episode, we are going to have a new series, and I'm going to call it Why We Lost. Usually I take an individual's gameplay, either mine or somebody who sends it in, and we take a look at it and we break down their individual gameplay, the mechanics of driving the tank, talk about the tactics, strategic, all that kind of stuff, how to win games. Sometimes I'd take a loss and it'll be either an interesting loss or an epic loss, that kind of thing. But in this series, we're going to take a look at losses in general, and we're going to talk about why the team lost. Why the team lost. And this game prompted me to think about this, as well as going onto the forum and seeing about every 5 seconds somebody complaining about blowouts in the forum. And I thought, blowouts are really misunderstood. And the question becomes, well, why do I have blowouts? What happens in a blowout? What are some of the reasons that a blowout happens? And there are a lot of theories out there, believe me, and I'm sure you've read a bunch of them. Basically, the game design lends itself to blowouts because there is no hit point recoup mechanism in the game, which means that early mistakes matter and they tend to snowball. Once a few guns go down, the other team gains such an advantage, it becomes more and more difficult exponentially for the other team to come back. Now, there are cases where they can come back. I'm talking about general numbers. So the question then becomes, within a game, what causes these cascading effects to happen? How do teams get up a few guns, more guns, such that it becomes a 15-4 face roll or a 15-0 or something like that? Well, it goes to the basics of World of Tanks, which are positioning and the skill of the players. Positioning and the skill of the players. So let's talk about positioning, especially early positioning, because that's where the blowouts happen. When you lose a bunch of guns early, it's probably because you had poor positioning or you met a larger force at a good position, i.e. larger or better force. And you lose a few guns early and off you go. The thing about World of Tanks, though, is you can throw in the dice roll of RNG, because you can do everything right on occasion, and the dice roll goes against you, and all of a sudden now you're the one behind the 8-ball. So let's take a look at this game that I've got called up right here, and it is Ruinberg. You can see that I'm in my OHO, but that's not necessarily important. You might be saying right now, well, Guido, I know where you lost. You're driving a bloody OHO. Anyway, this is a 357, and we are off to the races. So this is an encounter mode. Now this map plays similarly, whether it's encounter mode or standard, so it is useful for this discussion. Let's talk about how this map is usually fought, and then we'll see what happens right here. You can see we've got a pretty decent force, T-44 Bulldog and some other guys going up into the town. Not bad, that's fairly typical, and it looks like most of these guys down in the south are headed up to the cap, and that's usually what you're going to see. Let's see what the enemy team does. Before we get there, though, we'll talk a little bit about it. The team that wins up here then has shots down into the cap. There is another deal where, especially on the north spawn, they'll come into this middle road and tuck into this hole. This map is unbalanced because the north spawn is able to take this middle road much easier than the south spawn. You see this little bend in the road right here? That's what really borks up this whole thing, because if you try to get into the middle road from the south spawn early on, they can stack up right here in these bushes and just tear you a new one. There's really no way to hide if you come from the south spawn from their guys. If you come from the north spawn, you can actually tuck in here, or maybe even go down here and be reasonably sure you're not going to get shot from the city unless the south spawn completely takes over the city, which usually doesn't happen early. But you have to understand that when you start playing the game, or you start the match. So watch what happens right here. You see this Patton coming in here. You see this E75. I'll take a snap at one of those guys. It's not really important what I'm doing. I don't have a great game anyway. So ignore that. The M48's in there, and oh, that's interesting. I saw that the E75 has tucked in there, and that's one of their big guns. In fact, two of their tier 9s are in the middle right there, and that's very dangerous. I can also see that they seem to be overloading the small village on the east side right there, and we just don't really have that much up there. Additionally, you may note that our T-54 has driven down into the southwest corner of the map, and he is one of the critical cogs we would need up there on this east side over here in this village to win this thing. Watch this develop. I get hit in the side because they are really just spotting the heck out of us right there. The Bulldog scurries off, and it looks like we're going to start losing over there in the east. Already we're down 2 tanks. We don't even have our heavies into the city yet. So let's update then the meta on this map. We talked about how important this east village is over here. We talked about that center road. So what else should be happening? You should be contesting this small village up here, and your heavier forces should be pushing down and to contest the wheel right here. Up on this corner for the greens, up on this corner for the reds. But you'll see that something else interesting has happened for the reds. And this is almost kind of like an organized gameplay effort with these guys. The C-75 and 112 have come down and anchored these corners, making crossing this open area up here on the screen where the E-75 is very dangerous. That cuts off all these very slow tanks from getting to this corner. If we had fast enough tanks, or we had got there soon enough to this corner, we can punish guys that are sitting on this open area right here a little bit, although we do have to contend with the snipers back here. But as he has cut us off, it is very dangerous now for us to cross, and that's a huge problem. So not only are they starting to win handily up here because they really overpowered our guys in the city, and they've killed 3 now for nothing. They have an M48 tearing up the rest of my guys here, our guys there, and they have a couple heavies who've taken up very important positions to punish us for crossing here, and we are well back on our heels from the very beginning. We're only on minute 13:36 of this entire match, and things are going well south already. So we'll keep on coming in here. I try to get a little bit too clever crossing right here. I don't want to just drive across. Initially I'm going to push in here, look for a shot on him, and then I think, you know, I'm so clever, I'm just going to push up here, and then I'm going to do this little moonwalk backwards thing here in a minute. Our RHM goes and gets hit, and since I've already pointed a little, I'm just going to back up because this is very tricky, right? You'll see now though that we are down 5 tanks. I'm about to eat one in the side from this guy and miss right into the wall. We are down 5 tanks, and let's see what's happened now. We haven't been able to establish ourselves here position-wise on the wheel, which is what's required as one of the parts of victory for us. We haven't won up here. In fact, we've lost. And in fact, they're already in our backfield. And we had several guys kind of sitting back on the corner. Our E-75 is down here, sitting on this corner. Our T-54 still hasn't really engaged the enemy. He's still sitting over here. Position. Our team started the game out of position, continued out of position, lost a few tanks, and is now eating a steamroll. Scorpion G comes in here. I finally get a little something going for myself with a 955, and down he goes. We finally established ourselves with some kind of power up on the circle, but things are looking really bad. We've got an E-75 trying to hold these guys. We've got to see if we can dig a couple of these out, give us a little maneuver room in here so we're not surrendered. Surrounded. The problem for me right now is as I come around this corner, there's a T-30 and a 112 that will show up here, and that's what I'm worried about, is them popping around and hitting me in the side as I'm trying to engage these guys. I also have to worry about the artillery, because he can't hit me right here. Naturally, I don't pin the side, so I'm going to do 311, but somebody else completely blows his top, so to speak. So now they're folding in behind us. Our A44 is about to die. The E-75 is doing his best to hold on. The question is, of course, why is he back there? That's going to go unanswered. I'll wait here for a moment, hoping one of these two will be foolish enough to pop around and give me his side. And I notice the E-75 is now pushing in behind us. Now he's sensing the victory at this point, so he's going to get aggressive. He's got an E-75. He might as well push in. He hasn't seen our E-75. In fact, he's probably seen that our E-75 is sitting on that corner. He knows that I've crossed, but he also knows that I'm damaged, and he knows there's an RHM right there. So I'm going to come around this way and see if I can't get in behind him, and what turns out to be the 112, which I just see right there. Now, I don't have sixth sense, so I don't know if I've been spotted. The bummer about this maneuver is, for some reason, this E75 turns around and puts his front armor to me. Seems to know I'm coming, or if he didn't, he does now. Kills my Tiger friend. I try to ram him if I can, but don't get any kind of damage, not fast enough. And now I'm surrounded by two guys, but you can see that the steamroll is just about to be complete. There's not too many of us left. And that was fascinating because that shot right into his mantlet, which did 0 damage to his tank. Amazing, and I'll end up getting exploded right here. We'll let that blast settle down for a moment. And that is pretty much it. So the question, why did we lose? And with the specific part of talking about steamrolls on this particular map, is pretty easily answered if you think about it. So if you want to just say, well, I had a bad team, you need to break that down a little bit more and understand what was it that bad team did to make you lose. Mostly so you don't do that again yourself. And I talk about that because let's get into the whole skill and stats thing just a little bit. People want to say, well, steamrolls happen because I keep getting put on bad teams. You need to have some kind of skill based so I don't get put on bad teams. Well, remember, you're talking about you. So if you're looking at your stats, there is a constant variable in your stats. That's you. Your particular teams, the teams you are on, are not random. 29 of them are random, and you are the constant. So whatever skill you bring to those teams that you are on is what's going to positively or negatively affect your results. If we're talking abstract numbers, where we take 30 actual random players from World of Tanks, and you are not involved, then we can discuss the randomness of the shuffle and how the wins and losses come out from there. But if I am on 30 random teams, me plus 29 random players, and a player who is 45% is on 30 random teams, whatever number I said earlier, the results are probably going to be in my favor because my skill is the constant. So remember, it's not just your skill. I said obviously at the beginning that has something to do with it. But you're going to take each one of these games as a separate game, break it down and say what happened in particular in this game, regardless of the skill, that helped this thing turn out to be a blowout. And in this case, the positioning was awful to begin with. The enemy team jumped out in front of us because they overmatched a flank that we had several missing tanks on, one of them being a very key contributor, T-54, which may be AFK. He seems to be either stuck down here or AFK at this point. We lost that, lost some early tanks, and then you just saw the tanks start to fall and steamroll. And then once they got around behind us, they never really had to worry about us establishing on the wheel here because this E75 did a nice job on the 112 of cutting us off. And you can see that it's no real surprise that this ended up being such a quick and decisive win for the enemy. So there you have it. That's my first effort at why we lost. Let me know what you think of this series. If you have any ideas that you'd like me to add in there, go ahead and do so. And as always, if you've got a good replay, an ace tanker, an epic replay, maybe one of the harder personal missions was accomplished or some such like that, go ahead and send those in. I'll be happy to promote them and put them on the channel. If you want replay analysis, make sure you let me know that. If you just send me something, I tend to do a replay analysis. If there's a reason you're sending it to me, let me know. Additionally, if you want a replay analysis, let me know. All right, once again, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it, and we will see you.